of South Africa, Jacob Zuma, and the President of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe. I'm greatly honored to represent the African Union at this celebration of Fort Hare's centenary. Since its birth in 1916, the University of Fort Hare remains at the forefront of the Pan-African ideals and the quest to secure a better life for our people. In this regard, Fort Hare has so far produced many heads of state and government who have been mentioned by the program director. And of course, the canvas of the university's history also intertwined by portraits of other Pan-African giants, such as Professor Zaike Matthews, Didi Jabavu, Robert Mangaliso Sobugwe, Oliver Tambo, and many others. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this commemoration event occurs at a time when our glorious continent finds itself in a fast-changing world. In changing times, empires and dominant forces of yesteryear are obliged to share the global commons as new strategic alliances such as the G20, BRICS, and regional bodies such as ASEAN and CARICOM gain traction. These times also illustrate Africa's paradox: a continent of plenty, human resources, minerals, oil and gas, forests, lakes and rivers, arable land, oceans and seas, yet its people and countries are amongst the poorest in the world. To address its paradox, Africa has developed Agenda 2063 as a 50-year vision for the Africa we want. And it rededicates us to the Pan-African vision of an integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and representing the dynamic force in the international arena. Agenda 2063 demands that we all put Africa and her people first. By investing in health, nutrition, education, skills, science, technology, engineering, and maths, in research and innovation, so that our youth, our men and women, drive the development and renewal of our continent. Building modern infrastructure, transport, energy, ICT, so that we connect and power our countries, industries, cities, and rural areas. Revolutionize agriculture and agro-processing so that we eliminate hunger and feed ourselves and the world. Industrialize, build the African green and blue economies so that we create economic opportunities, jobs, and shared prosperity for current and future generations, and empower women and girls so that we use all our talent. Our 50-year agenda gives us the scope to be ambitious about the Africa we want, to be realistic about Africa we have, and to be systematic, deliberate, and unflinching about the path towards Africa's renaissance. Fort Hare must therefore continue to define its role within this agenda and to produce the ideals and knowledge, the innovators, entrepreneurs, professionals, and leaders that will drive this agenda. Given its illustrious history, Fort Hare and other academic institutions have a critical role to play towards the realization of our aspirations and ambitious agenda. During the ZK Matthews lecture in February 2015, the Vice-Chancellor commented that, I quote, "The university is better known as the crucible of Africa and has produced what we call today heroes of our struggle for liberation movements across the African continent," close quote. Indeed, universities, their academics and student movements were part of the building blocks of the Pan-African movement for liberation, self-determination, solidarity, and self-reliance. And in the newly independent states, and inspired the formation of the Organization of African Unity in 1963. Over the next 50 years, the universities, these crucibles, contributed to the body of knowledge, on African development, economics, law, archaeology, science, architecture, culture, agriculture, and history. They were also sometimes ostracized for speaking out against the demons of tribalism, war, ethnicity, rent-seeking, dictatorship, and structural adjustment projects. And when they argued for endogenous African paths of development that move away from dependency and place the African people at the center. True to this crucible nature and building on the foundations of the universities of Timbuktu, Al-Qarawini, and Al-Azhar, Fort Hare, and other great Pan-African universities that followed, such as the universities of Makerere, Sheikh Anta Diop, Ibadan, Addis, Cairo, Dar es Salaam, and many others were part of the epicenter of change on all fronts of human endeavor. This role continues to be absolutely necessary as we transform Africa and build what Professor Callistus Juma calls learning economies and societies. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the learning economies and societies so critical to Africa's transformation will not happen unless we have the skills and right mindset to make it happen. The study by the African Capacity Building Foundation shows that continent-wide, we have a shortfall of over 4 million engineers, technicians, and artisans, and over 1 million shortfall in agricultural scientists and economists, which are so necessary to implement Agenda 2063. Our higher education has grown at over 16% a year over the last two decades, but we still have less than 20% of young African men and women with access to higher education and further education. It is only once higher education enrollment reaches massification, which is over 25%, that we can talk about societies striving towards inclusiveness and equity. With less than 20% enrollment in higher education, we are simply reproducing the elite. What compounds this problem is that over 90% of students enrolled in African universities are still in the social sciences. The skills shortfall and mismatch, therefore, not only have an impact on the growth and development, but also on equity and inclusiveness. As we therefore look ahead, our mission for the next 50 years, we expect indeed, and we demand that these crucibles of Africa, our universities, take their rightful place in the African Renaissance and transformation. And speaking to the students and young people gathered here and elsewhere, let me remind you of the ANC Youth League slogan, "The youth must learn," and of the words of Moses Kotane, that the future belongs to you and it will be what you make of it, close quote. Students are known for pursuing the boundaries in the struggles of the people and in furtherance of their own demands. This is what we expect from students. However, this goes with responsibility, and it must be done in a constructive manner. We indeed have high expectations that you will bring to bear your youthful energies, daring, innovation, and creativity to help us transform the Africa we want into the Africa we have into the Africa we want. As the young Sobugwe, a product of Fort Hare, said, I quote, "You have seen by now what education means to us. The identification of ourselves with the masses. Education to us means service to Africa. You have a mission. We all have a mission. We must be the embodiment of our people's aspirations," close quote. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Fort Hare has been called a barometer of African thought. We are encouraged that the institution has not waited for the centenary to craft for itself Vision 2030, building on the gains of its glorious past and drawing lessons from its challenges. it appropriately locates the university in the national and continental developmental discourse. It is also important that the vision does not only address the macro level issues, but also addresses the challenge in confronting its students and its immediate communities. On behalf of the African Union, we wish you a happy first century. May you flourish over the next centuries as a leading light of the African century. I thank you. Asante sana. Ndiyabulela.
Thank you, the chairperson of the AU Commission, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma. As we receive to the stage one of the leaders of our continent, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma has reminded us about Fort Hare and its role in building strong organizations like the ANC Youth League. That this was the strongest branch of the ANC Youth League in 1948 under the leadership of A.P. Mda, who later, after the death of Lembede, became the president of the ANC Youth League. Many contributions. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, and it's my singular honor to ask and request our leader, the President of Zimbabwe, President R.G. Mugabe, to come and address us.